Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of the Lead Network. It's going to be a little bit different. Mr. Madison is down at the XL Energy Center managing a tournament down there, a small little event that we've got going on today. But we will walk through a fair number of topics here as we are kind of in a transitional time within the school year. We're wrapping up winter tournaments over the course of the next 3 weekends. And at the same time, Monday, we start a number of our activities for the spring season. Very different than a year ago. We've got a lot of clear ground out there. Doesn't mean it's necessarily ready for competition, but we're going to be able to get our programs outside quite a bit, especially with the weather predictions. So as we look forward to the agenda, I will do my best in Bob's place as the MC, and we'll walk through a fair number of slides here. You're going to hear some things around our tournaments as we're wrapping those up. Section finals in girls basketball going on, as well as the section tournaments in boys basketball. But otherwise, it's really kind of all looking forward to spring preparation and what we're doing to get our teams ready to go there. We'll also talk a little bit about the webpage with eligibility resources and things that you can access as we go through the spring seasons. And then a slide talking about competition, training, and contests. A few reminders here, but also some situations that we bounced into over the course of time. Want to make sure that you have some good background. Charlie's going to give us an update on a SALT community service project that is being really student-led, a great new endeavor by our SALT students here at the Minnesota State High School League. I'll walk through a little bit more information on ninth grade governance as we keep this front and center in the conversations that we have with all of our members. And then obviously our quick takes and our checklist as we move things forward and try and give you the best possible information. So I'm going to check quickly with the team. Do we have Phil with us to get us started on tournament updates?
We do.
I'm here, Eric.
Awesome. Wonderful. We'll turn it over to Phil, and he's going to share some things on the next 2 slides.
Awesome. Good morning and welcome, everybody. Thanks, Eric, for turning it over. And thank God that my Zoom wanted to kick in here for me. So hopping into some winter tournament updates and just a little bit on everything that we've got going. So we're kind of in the thick of our winter tournaments right now, and things are moving well. And in large part because of our athletic directors and the staff we work with at their particular schools and the workers that are populating our venues when we're doing that. And so you and your people have been more than visible and more present than ever before. And with that, we've heard great stories of schools stepping up and helping, whether that's hosting a neutral site section tournament game or finding different awesome pieces of recognition to share with the different communities. We've seen the support from our athletic directors and their offices, meaning their teams, to provide an awesome experience for our students and communities more now than ever. And really, this is not just a winter tournament update, but as you can see, the majority of the content on the slide is really about thanks and being grateful that we've got you there. So these bullet points here are very specific because these are the areas that we've really seen our athletic directors and their staff showing up. And we wanted to make sure that we pointed these things out specifically. We know during the winter, there's obviously a ton of events to host, and there's so many different meetings, especially centered around section and state tournament play and things along those lines, making sure that we've got all the information, which leads right into the next of attention to detail with all of those requirements. The section level, the state level, there's so many different little details that we need to make sure that we're providing a great experience for not just the student athletes, but also our communities, as it's a huge piece for many of our communities. So that work is greatly appreciated. I wanted to make sure that we were very specific in our thanks around that. And so the other little note on there is the positives that we're sharing on social media and different things like that. Those are all different pieces of building the culture of sport in Minnesota that the MSHSL wants to bring to the table, and you are all a part of it. So a big piece of our winter tournaments is the work that you've done in these areas. And so and it's also, I would say, noticed by our board, the impact that our athletic administrators have on the sport. So not just talking about the rigid black and white bylaw 409 and making sure everything is taken care of, and we've got our students and our spectators covered, but the more nuanced aspect of that, of providing site supervision and working with the staffs to make sure that our spectators are in good sportsmanship and doing all the different things that we want. And so this was noticed by our board. And I think the action that they took at our last board meeting in moving a couple of our winter sports from 4 administrative representatives to 8 administrative representatives speaks to the nature and the seriousness in which you guys are taking your roles and your spots in the community and making sure that we're hosting great events. So our winter tournaments have been rolling really, really well. We've got a handful more that we are still knocking out here. I'm down here at the Excel Center for boys hockey right now, and we'll be moving quickly into adapted floor hockey, girls basketball, and boys basketball coming up here pretty quick. So we've got all those things going. Eric, did I miss anything on our winter tournaments that you want to touch on?
No, I would just add in that among the people that notice, I testified at the legislature last week, and 2 of the committee members made special mention that they had recognized the work that our students were doing in managing themselves and making announcements at the beginning of events. So they know that you are working hard within your schools. What we do in the regular season leads directly into our section tournaments, and what happens in those lead directly into our state tournaments. So just appreciate everybody's work in making the winter as positive as it's been. Phil, you want to take us into spring?
Yeah, let's hop into spring. So I know there's always this talk of finishing the year strong or finishing the season strong. And that's kind of where we're at with our winter season. But as we're starting to transition, I was on the phone with an athletic director today, and they're down to 2 winter sports teams left, and they're just kind of rounding out the season. But it makes your mind shift a little bit into how do I finish out the year strong? And it's, we've got spring sports that have technically started this week. We've got things already moving in a handful of areas, and the majority of those things will start here coming up very soon. So, I want to approach it with the mindset of how do we finish the year strong? How do we have that same attention to detail and that same energy that we had in August when the school year was just rolling? Now, admittedly, that might take some more energy as you're kind of trying to figure that out as we've navigated 2 long seasons and we're coming into the spring, and you've got all the activities that are kind of outside out of the building, and I don't want to say out of sight out of mind, but you know what I mean. Like, you've got people out there doing things, but with that comes all of the aspects of the details that are there that are needed during our fall and our winter seasons as well. So when we get into student eligibility, who's on your rosters? Are they legal? Do they have their sports qualifying physicals and all those things? Your coaches' education requirements. Are your coaches certified coaches? Have they taken care of their CERs? I think of emergency action plans. And one thing with the spring, we've had phenomenal weather this winter, don't get me wrong, and we're able to get outside and do some things. But with that, we're going to have some rain. I mean, we need that. So we're going to have some rain at some point, or we're going to have some potential severe weather. Are you prepared? Are your coaches prepared while they're out and about in the field and you're sitting in your office? Are they prepared to take initial steps on things? Are they educated on your emergency action plans? Bylaw 411 has been talked about quite a bit this year when it comes down to scheduling of contests. The one thing I'll hit on this one, and I know it will be brought up again later on in the lead meeting, but the activities on Sunday. Okay, there should be no MSHSL activities on Sunday. So are your coaches aware of that? Do we know that what the guidelines are around the scheduling of contests, including scrimmages and travel and things along those lines for your spring break trips for some of those sports teams like baseball, softball, and lacrosses? So, and then lastly, the eligible use of officials, being in communication with them. I think of lacrosse and I think of soccer and baseball when it comes to trying to figure out your scheduling for officials. Make sure that you're in communication on if you're using eligible officials. There's the entire reason that having eligible officials is there is protection for you and your programs and your school. So make sure that you're tapping into that and you're checking and qualifying that before you get games going that are utilizing officials. So a handful of things just to think about as we slide into spring here, but again, attention to detail and energy. The spring season is going to be awesome this year because we're able to get outside and do some things. So let's make sure we take advantage of it and have some fun. Eric, I'll pass it back to you if you want to grab anything out of there and point out some highlights.
No, I think that that's a very significant list, and appreciate everybody's work and preparation as we go into it. We don't want to leave anything to chance. Kind of talking a little bit further on the whole eligibility and making sure our students are ready to go. We'll turn it to Lisa for a slide here relative to the resources that are provided. Lisa?
Thanks, Eric, and good morning, everyone. It's great to see each of you on here. I wanted to highlight an area of our website that I have been pointing people to quite a bit lately, and I want to make sure everyone's aware of this fantastic resource on your dashboard. As you can see in this photo, there is an area on your program management side of your dashboard that talks about eligibility, and this is a great place for you to start should you have any eligibility questions. And this is really detailed and broken out well. There are great resources as you work with your students to be eligible. As Phil said, making sure you have the update and correct physical forms. Those resources are on there as it pertains to the 100 series of bylaws. There are also great resources as you work with your families on transition and transfer eligibility. This is often that time of year that families begin to talk about students and what their enrollment will look like next year. It's important to share how changes in student enrollment can affect students' participation eligibility. Most schools do a really good job of working with their counselors and enrollment offices when students are entering their school. It's really important to work with those same folks as students are talking about exiting or transitioning their enrollment from your school and what kind of impact that would be on their student eligibility. The other key piece in this area of the website is that there are available resources for those students who are being invited to participate in national and Olympic development teams, as well as information about non-school competition as it relates to Bylaw 108. So really a great resource for you. Make sure you're getting in there when you have time to check it out. There are questions and answers on camps and clinics. We get that quite frequently around this time of year, as well as some recordings that you can go back to and use as questions arise in your district. So spend some time when you have some in that area of our website on your dashboard. Eric?
Thanks, Lisa. And I think it's apparently Laura just had a little bit of a blip in her coverage, so we're back with the PowerPoint. But the point on eligibility here is, as Lisa mentioned, we're talking about transition, the start of a new season, but also school year. And you know, invariably when we have something that comes to the board on eligibility, we'll hear from a family that I talked to my AD before I transitioned or transferred, and they said I would be eligible for sure. And obviously the standard is that they are going to be ineligible until proven otherwise. And so let's be really clear and say that the bylaws are what we need to take a look at, and everyone needs to really dig into that situation all the way through before we make any determination on what eligibility would be. But a great resource. And then we'll continue with Lisa as we talk about management of our activities.
Fantastic. Thanks, Eric. And as Phil mentioned, we're moving into the beginning of spring here, and some reminders for each of you to think about as your teams participate in various forms of competition and training. It's really important that you understand who's on your teams. Do you have students who weren't there last year? And if so, you know, where did they come from and how are we providing that path for eligibility for those students, ensuring that they're eligible to participate? Also knowing who your teams are participating against and ensuring that you're protecting your students' eligibility by knowing the levels that your teams are playing and participating against. It's important to remember that varsity athletes compete in varsity contests and competition. And that's a clear message throughout the handbook and throughout our bylaws. It's also important to know the different types of competitions your teams are engaged in. Scrimmages, as Phil mentioned, look very different than what a game would look like, and how are you ensuring that that is a scrimmage versus what a game would look like. Per NFHS rules, exhibitions are limited to tennis, gymnastics, and swimming. So really, as we move into some of our spring sports, making sure that those athletes that are eligible are participating. Now is also a good time to review the Bylaw 500 series as it relates to 7th, 8th, and 9th grade participation. And if you're moving those students into Minnesota State High School League level programs, that you're ensuring their eligibility and their calendar and their number of games participated is in line with what's in the Bylaw 500 series. So really digging into that 500 series as you begin the spring season. And with that, I will turn it back to Eric.
Great reminders, Lisa, and continue to think about ways you engage with your coaches this spring to talk about what are the activities that you have planned in terms of competition versus scrimmage when they're setting those up, and make sure that they understand perhaps in something like track that exhibition is not something that's allowed per NFHS rule. And so we've got to think about how we might want to give them an opportunity, but it can't be part of a varsity meet or something similar. So good focus on that. We'll take a little interlude on the bylaws and handbook, and hear a little commercial on behalf of our SALT students here at the Minnesota State High School League, and an opportunity for your schools. Charlie?
Great. Thank you, Eric. As Eric mentioned in reviewing the agenda, the League's Student Advisory and Leadership Team, our SALT members, are sponsoring the first ever statewide community service project. Since this community service project is starting organically with our SALT members, and because it's our first attempt to support our SALT members in the project, it's also quite likely it's the first time you've heard of it. Currently, our SALT members are using their connection to students in your schools through social media to invite their participation in it. This project is unique in that it is the brainchild of our SALT members, and it involves a local screening of the documentary that you see here on the picture on this slide, Legends of the Night, from producer Brett Culp. This documentary examines the lives of ordinary heroes that have been inspired by Batman and who are making differences in the lives of others in their communities. We really like this project for several reasons. First, it's optional. There's no requirement for schools to participate in it. Second, it's designed to truly be student-led. The project is designed to give students the opportunity to develop their leadership skills through the organization and execution of a community service project. Also, it allows students to identify and support a worthwhile cause or organization or charity in your community. Finally, we like that there's great flexibility in the execution of the project to maximize its impact locally. With support from the school, student leaders can tailor decisions such as the date of the screening, the location or venue for the screening, and which local charity or organization will be supported through the project. It's important to know we have tasked student leaders to identify a school administrator who can guide their efforts in this project, but not necessarily step out in front and lead it. Also, we're going to compile some post-event survey results that will help us gather feedback, but also we're interested in the impact that this has across the state of Minnesota, and we'll be excited to share that back with you. And then just in summary, would like to say that our SALT team is messaging your students right now to participate in this project. If a student or students in your school are inspired to take part, they're going to contact you as the activities administrator to discuss the opportunity to do that. Conversely, if you're inspired and you like the idea of this project and you're not hearing from students, you may find a student or two to tap on the shoulder and say, I think we should do this. And we would definitely support that as well. More information will come out on this in today's update, and that should land a little bit later today in your inbox. Eric, back to you with any additional.
Thanks, Charlie. We got a chance to see Brett Culp at the summer meeting for NFHS, and really inspiring, and really like the local flavor of this is an opportunity for you within your schools, led by your students. And we know how incredible they can be when we give them the opportunity to do that. So we'll slide into talking about ninth grade governance. You're going to hear about this a lot, and that's going to be very intentional. We need this to be front and center for our membership as we think about the possibility that the Minnesota State High School League fully incorporates ninth grade into the Minnesota State High School League. We've heard from many of our schools of a maybe less enrollment, that we already do this, and we're generally 9-12 across the board in our programming, and that's really what we do. But we do have a number of schools that still have ninth grade teams only, and again, those students have some of our requirements, but they don't have all of them. And, you know, what does that mean? And where are those inconsistencies? And one of the biggest concerns has to do with catastrophic medical insurance, concussion insurance, and those pieces as well. So our board has been very clear that they want us to continue this process going forward. We expect that at the April meeting, we will have the creation of a task force to work on the study and the communication that goes along with this. We need to engage our membership through this dialogue. We see the earliest possible time for this to start would be the 25-26 school year, which is not very far away, quite honestly, when it comes to the decisions and all the work that would need to go into this. But this group would come together and determine the steps and the timeline. We have a draft timeline that we've talked about. Further develop a communication plan to make sure all of our administrators and programming folks know what this might mean for their programs. Take a look at our bylaws and policies, and then also looking for blind spots. One of the biggest things that we talk about in our league is, we don't want to get to the point where we've made a decision and then stop and say, what did we just do? Or what are the outcomes that we didn't anticipate? So we're really going to be studying this hard and communicating with you. And we need you through maybe region committees or other to talk about what this might mean in your particular school. Our board has been responding to a survey that we've had them do to talk about the benefits, the potential challenges, rough spots with this that we would have to try to iron out. And ultimately, we need a member school vote to change our constitution to move from a 10-12 organization to a 9-12 organization. It's a big step. We understand that. Yet the feedback we continue to hear from our membership is we need to move forward and continue this process to put this into place. And so these are the steps in the transition that we're taking a look at, and it's intentional. You're going to continue to hear about it, and that's because our goal is to probe your brains as far as what have we not thought about, what other advantages might there be, and then what other pitfalls or items to navigate are we going to run into. So appreciate your partnership as we continue forward with this, and you'll hear about it if you attend MNI AAA. We'll talk more about it there as well. And so another good opportunity for us to dialogue and move us forward. Charlie, we're going to work our way back to you for some quick takes as well as the checklist items.
Yeah, so another form of whiplash for our audience. This is usually reserved for Phil, but I will take both of these sections today. Directors have sent or will be sending soon preseason memos to all head coaches and ADs for the upcoming spring season. Know that these memos are meant to ensure a successful start to each season. And it's always a good idea to forward them to your coach and review the content with your coaches. If they don't receive the memo directly from the league, they are likely not connected to their sport in the website, which means it's highly likely that they are not completing the education requirements, and it's highly likely that they'll be missing important communication along the way during the season. Baseball pitch count, make sure your coach has their pitch count account set up. Remember, different this year's, the home team will enter pitch counts for both teams during their games. For additional information with pitch count and baseball, please see the preseason memo from Director Madison that was just referenced in our first bullet point here. We encourage you to register and attend the MNI AAA conference here that will be held at the end of the month. Engage with this professional development opportunity with your peers and colleagues if you are able to do so. Once again, our staff is pleased to be able to participate in this conference with you, and we look forward to seeing many of you at that event. Does your softball team have aspirations of making a deep tournament run this year? If so, be reminded that the tournament will still be held in Mankato, but we are transitioning to a 3-day format this year, which will look a little bit different, especially for those that maybe have been regular attendees in the past. More information about that tournament format and schedule can be found online. As Phil talked about earlier in today's meeting, a good time to review the high school league board policy for weather conditions and competition or practice. Just simply have a plan for when weather conditions interrupt the safety of either practice or your events. This is also a good time to be thinking about implementing a pregame huddle of sorts with coaches, officials, your sports medicine staff, school administrators. This pregame huddle where you can talk about any pending weather that may be impacting that event, how decisions are going to be made, and how those decisions will be communicated. Also note that CEUs for the lead meetings are available in the resources section of your AD dashboard. And also a reminder that those CEUs are available from our fall area meetings in that same location as well. Eric, before jumping into the checklist, is there anything that needs further clarification or anything I missed?
No, I think you're right on track. Let's slide ahead to the last slide there.
That sounds great. And a reminder, we are in our third week here of 3 straight weeks of elections and primaries and caucuses. So on Tuesday, March 12th, we have township elections scheduled in several, but not all of our townships. And know that if that does impact your district, there are to be no school events between 6 and 8 p.m. This is likely a region issue as it relates to high school league activities. But a good reminder for you to work with your school administration to determine what other events might be happening in your schools and whether it's appropriate to consider moving those or rescheduling those to a time that fits within the spirit of the state statute that guides that language. This is your seasonal reminder to track and record your winter participation numbers. Your school's participation data helps ensure that we are being fiscally responsible by paying only what we need to pay towards the insurance premiums. Eric mentioned our catastrophic and concussion insurance earlier in today's meeting. We want to pay what we are expected to pay and not any more. Additionally, that data helps us to monitor participation trends across all of our league-sponsored programming. And while it's not officially submitted until May, many ADs find it best practice to record that seasonally so it's ready and available as they work towards the submission of that information. Whether your team is alive in postseason play or just prepping for the spring season, it's always a good decision to share and implement, communicate the behavior expectations within your school community. Your leadership in creating, supporting, and enforcing these expectations in your school community, it's necessary and it is appreciated. And as Phil mentioned early in the meeting, it's been on firsthand display at our postseason competitions. And we know it's hard work, but it is good work and it is necessary and appreciated. Summer waivers for the 2024 summer season are open to be completed by coaches and approved by ADs, found in the coaches dashboard. A great reminder, especially for our fall and winter coaches as their seasons are complete, and they can work on that right now, and you can review and approve those in preparation for what kind of contact they will be allowed to have over the course of this summer. Again, preparing for our spring season with the same attention and diligence and detail as you did for the fall and winter, ensuring students are fully eligible and registered, making sure coaches and advisors, they have an account on the league website, they're members of your school, they're assigned to their correct coaching role, and then monitoring the completion of coach education requirements. It's always a little bit troubling when we get to our postseason tournaments and we're communicating with coaches that they have not completed expectations or completed their education requirements, and are telling us it's the first time they've heard of it. Your leadership here is super important and helps all of us stay in compliance with bylaw and with Minnesota statute. And then finally, again, reviewing our board policy for weather conditions and competition and practice, and registering for that M&I AAA conference. That's enough of me. Eric, going to turn it back to you and take us to the close of today's meeting.
Thanks so much, Charlie, and the rest of staff. I want to just give a shout out to Susie for managing registration and Laura for taking care of our slides on a regular basis. I also want to make mention of our liaisons who meet with us each Tuesday prior to this to help set the agenda and identify spots where we need to share more information. I want to thank each and every one of you for all you do within your schools and your sections and regions, conferences, etc., to make our events possible. And just know that you're doing a great job, and it's truly appreciated. We look forward as a staff to seeing you over the course of maybe the next couple of days if you're at a tournament, or the next couple of weekends, and certainly at M&I AAA, where we're going to have a significant part of that conference and really appreciate the opportunity to connect. In an effort to put a smile on your face, if you have Bob Madison's cell phone number, feel free to text him about today's lead meeting and tell him how much you missed him, or perhaps even tell him it's never been better than it was today. In that light, we are going to finish a minute early, and I am going to wish you the very best for a wonderful Thursday. Thanks so much.